One major concern that a lot of people have going on right now is, of course, elections and mail in ballots, right? So we have a big concern there. Some people are starting to speculate that what Donald Trump is doing, or at least what some Republicans are doing, is trying to cast doubt on the legitimacy of mail in ballots because it looks like there's a very real possibility that what could end up happening is that on election night, on the night when everybody, or at least the sort of people who are interested in politics, are watching TV, it's going to look like Donald Trump won, and not just won, but won in a landslide. And then as mail-in ballots continue to get counted throughout, the following days, following week, possibly weeks, plural, it could turn into a situation where Joe Biden won, and in fact, possibly even won handily. And so one major concern that a lot of people are beginning to raise is, how do we even talk about this? How do we even talk about this, Chris? Because at the end of the day, if we are leaving it up to our pundits, the news pundits on cable news, and no matter what cable news station it is, I don't know if I trust them. No matter which cable news station, I don't know that I trust them to be honest with the American people and say, look, we don't know the results of this election until weeks out, because this is different. Usually you can watch the election on the night and have a rough idea of what happened. You can know this person won or that person won, and even if not, you'll know, okay, well, I'll know by morning time. Very likely won't be the case this time around.
Yeah, I agree. So this is, it's there's a whole lot going on in this story, and one of the things is being able to rely on the news, because the news is tricky now because all news have kind of moved into this category where most news agencies are biased in one direction or each other, just like politically. And then on top of that, you have the fact that there's the bottom line, right? These places have to turn a profit. So there's two major ways which really sort of make me wonder what, it makes it very difficult when you're looking at news to really think how objective is that news and how much has it come out, how much stuff has gotten mixed in along the way. And I completely agree. This has kind of been a story that's gained some ground throughout this week. And Vanity Fair had this title on what I'm showing on the screen here: Democrats fear Trump may declare victory on election night. I don't think there's any may. I mean, this is just what's going to happen. 100%, this is what's going to happen. You hear certain scenarios and this is the whole point of what's going on right now. This is the whole point of running down trying to dismantle the post office, running down mail-in ballots, because it's been projected that in all likelihood the votes that are counted on election night will favor Trump. If you look at those totals, it's going to favor Trump. He can come out and say, see, look, everybody, I won. And then in the following days, as more and more votes come in, people are suspecting that's going to move it the other direction. And of course, everything Trump's saying is already going to discredit those ballots that are coming in later. We're already being told, those mail-in ballots, Trump already warned us that those mail-in ballots are fraudulent. And so people are they're all primed to just believe whichever side they want to believe. And I think we're going to see a lot of chaos in that week, which is what a lot of people are saying, that Trump wants chaos. That's what serves him. I think we're going to see a lot of lawsuits, and I think we could definitely see some unfortunate situations with people on both sides getting really frustrated, really upset, and things going in a bad direction.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was too young to really remember the 2000 election. I was maybe just very, very young, like 2 or 3. And so, I don't remember what happened, but from my textbooks and from what I've read about it, I hear that it was a disaster and a complete nightmare, and that people were genuinely worried, and that at the end of the day, the Supreme Court was the one who just said, you know what, we can't have this going on. We can't have recount. Let's just, okay, this is, you won. So I'm worried that something like that could happen again, that we could end up, possibly even using that previous Supreme Court precedent of, we can't just keep having recounts on there. And so after a certain number of recounts, we're just going to set it. And lower courts could use that Supreme Court case as precedent to say that. This is without a doubt a terrifying election scenario, a terrifying election situation. And if you're not worried, quite frankly, I don't mean to insult you, but wake up. You need to be paying attention here. This is a really big problem that we all should be considering very
Yeah.
carefully and very closely. Now, look, and I'm not here to say that it's only going to be Donald Trump who runs out and declares victory. I think any halfway decent political strategist will tell you that whenever the votes are not clear, what you should do is come out and declare victory, or make a victory-esque speech. Even if you don't overtly come out and say that you won, make a speech that's rah rah rah, right? That's what you want to do because you want to be
Right.
controlling the media narrative. And so I suspect as well that Joe Biden will come out. He might not declare victory. I don't know if for sure Donald Trump may use the word victory, right? That's an open remark. But I suspect that on election night, both candidates will very likely come out and make some kind of rah rah speech. Now it might be difficult in the case of Joe Biden, where if you look at the stats right now, so for instance, I think it's the case that what is it, Chris? Is it that Democrats are 3 times more likely to use mail-in ballot systems currently than are Republicans? If I'm remembering that stat correctly.
I forget we hear so many different stats, but somewhere along those scenarios, yeah. Part of it that I just read an article today, part of it is that the Republican states didn't ramp up as much because they keep hearing from Trump that he doesn't want people using mail-in voting, so they kind of got their cue. Oh,
Right.
okay, let's not ramp
Let's
up our system then.
Which is a disaster for Republicans because that could
Right,
actually end up hurting them in Republican
right,
states. Like you would think that if Donald Trump was, like this mastermind genius, what he would want is tell Republican states behind the scenes before Democrat states even get the word, hey, this might be a real big problem, like ramp up your mail-in ballot systems. And it is true, Republican states on average are further behind in terms of being able to implement mail-in ballot systems. So it may even be a situation where certain voters are disenfranchised on the basis of how the president has been acting. And those voters
right.
who are disenfranchised could, for the first time ever, be disproportionately Republican, or at least in certain parts of the country. I doubt that it could ever make up for the disenfranchisement that we see in other areas, right? But
Right.
I am at my point being that this is something that could actually inadvertently end up hurting Republicans. Now, my guess is, though, what's really going on is that, like we were saying earlier, Donald Trump could be doing this to run ahead of things, and run out, declare victory, and then tell the courts basically, hey, you need to stop
Mhm.
this recounting, because if you keep on recounting over and over again, then it's going to undermine democracy, undermine our faith in democracy. No, what needs to happen is the news anchors across the board, Fox News, One America Network, I can't, is it One America or America One Network, the super right-leaning networks
Or the
across,
OAN.
yeah, across the board, every single network needs to run out ahead of time and say, look, we don't know who is going to be the winner tonight. We don't know,
Right.
because this is unclear. This is uncharted territory. We've never had a sort of pandemic election in modern electoral history where, things are expected to be reported upon immediately. So that's the difficulty. And it requires restraint. It requires honesty. It requires integrity. And man, I'm
and,
worried.
and which are things we haven't seen a lot of in our news agencies
Right. And
lately.
we
I mean,
haven't done a
all
good,
these new agencies are fairly sketchy.
certainly, and we haven't done a very good job as a society cultivating those virtues as
Right.
premium virtues that we should look to, right? And these are the things that in times of crisis we have to fall back on. That we have to fall back on these virtues that capitalism eats up, right? And so it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, but hopefully we can pull something out. Hopefully we can make it through this one and not have riots on the streets. Because it's, Chris, what I'm scared of. What I'm scared of is the possibility of there being true riots on the streets on both sides. Because,
Mhm.
I mean, you could
Right.
see it for sure. I mean, we have protests on the streets right now. Could you imagine if there was another incident of a police shooting going on around this time of the election as well? And, you have that kind of tension building up, and then you have Trump declaring an election. I mean, this could go really, really bad,
Oh
really,
yeah.
really fast.
I think it's going to be very, very bad. I think it's going to get ugly. I mean, we're going to see at the very least, we are going to see, I think it's going to be lawsuits in any kind of state that is an all important in this is there's going to be lawsuits they're already being written up. People are already thinking ahead to the legalities of election day. I just saw an article today. I think it was Arizona, but I could be wrong about that, where they just changed their rules where they're going to start counting mail in ballots 10 days ahead of time. So as those ballots are coming in 10 days early, they start counting them so that they're not, because they, the numbers are potentially twice as many people could be voting by mail-in ballot than have ever voted by mail-in ballot before. And most places are not set up for that kind of volume. Most things that you plan for, you can't just instantly double your capacity, right? So I think it was Arizona, but I don't remember, said, you know what, we're going to start counting ballots as they come in 10 days ahead of time so that we don't have as much to get through on the day and days following the election. And the White House is already mad about it. They're already speaking out saying how this is a bad thing. And it would sound, they haven't filed yet, but it would sound like this is going to be challenged in court, just counting ballots. Like, yeah, we'd like to get all the ballots that are officially cast. We'd like to get them counted. Now, of course, you don't want that information getting out, and you don't want you don't want that kind of news to get out and say, well, Trump's winning in the mail-in ballots or Biden's winning in the mail-in ballots. You want it all secret, but I don't see anything wrong with letting them get their work done so that we can get a jump on it. But even then, even that is being politicized.
It's
And if you
right.
can't even agree on that, then I don't see how we can agree on the stuff that is in fact in a gray area. How are we ever going to be
Yeah.
civil about that? And I don't see that
Yeah, we
happening.
have to at least agree that we're going to count all the votes and that we're going to do
Right.
our best to count the votes honestly. That, to me at least, that should not be partisan. That shouldn't even be political. Like, that should be off the table in terms of political debates. That's just what we do in our society, in our form of government. So I have a question in the chat asking.